everybody, it's Teresa. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to be doing even count peyote stitch today. Peyote stitch is not hard. The hardest thing about it is getting started because you don't have much to hold on to when you're starting out. But you can make some really beautiful designs. These are some examples of some bracelets that I've made using peyote stitch. I didn't design any of these. I bought all these, I bought the patterns on Etsy. But you can, I'm not smart enough to design anything this intricate, but you can get the peyote graph paper and design your own. Or you, like I said, I bought these on Etsy, the patterns. You can make some just really, really beautiful pieces. I'll just pick them up here and let you see them closer. This would be a simple design to create with graph paper on your own. And then there are more intricate ones here that I'm definitely not smart enough to make on my own. These are all even count peyote. And oftentimes I use these bars here to finish the peyote, to finish the end. I've got one here to show you how it is. It's got a little slit down the center there, and it's got these little tabs on each end, and you just take the end of your work and you just slide it down through there, and then you close up the end. I always have to get my husband to do that because I don't have a lot of strength in my hands and I can't get it done myself, but I use that a lot. But you can use a regular toggle too, and or a regular lobster, whatever, any kind of clasp. Like these have magnetic, well, they've got the bar, but then I attach the magnetic clasps to them. That's how you would do it. Either attach like this one has a lobster attached to it. I need to get down here where y'all can see me. And I have magnetic clasps on these. You can just do a regular clasp to the end of it though, and that's what I'm going to do today. These are delica beads. Delica beads are really good for peyote because they're cylindrical and they sit together really nicely. You can do it with regular seed beads. You can do it with 2-hole beads. You can do it with cube beads. You can do it with pretty much any kind of bead you want to. These kind of patterns are just better with delicas because they sit so nicely together. This is one that I just took some graph paper and did a pattern on my own. Just a simple little pattern there. This is actually one that my husband took the graph paper and did. He did some maple leaves. And you can kind of see, I hope, in the white beads there, the delicas just sit real nice. They kind of look like a little brick wall there, the way they sit together. And that's why delicas are good for peyote. My husband is very proud of this pattern, so I had to show it to you. This is one that I did using cube beads and just regular seed beads. And there's some 3mm fire polish. The brown and lighter brown ones are cube beads, and then there's the little seed beads in there, and then the red ones are 3mm fire polish. So you can mix up beads. You can just do all kinds of things. This is one that I had in my pictures when I first started my channel. For a while I had it in the pictures when the intro comes on, and a lot of you commented on it. This is one that Allie from Potomac Beads did on their channel years ago, and it's just using regular 11/0 seed beads. I'll link that video in the description box below so y'all can check it out if you want to. I've tried this pattern with delicas, and it looks better with regular seed beads because I don't know, I think it's because of that little wave you do. makes it look better with regular seed beads than with the delicas. But most of the time with peyote, I do delicas. I'm going to use 8/0 seed beads today. Just regular 8/0 seed beads. I would use 8/0 delicas, but I don't have any. So, but I wanted to use bigger beads than the 11/0s, hoping that maybe you can see it better. I don't know how easy it's going to be to see, like I always say, with my big hands in the way. But I'm going to try. So let me get these out of the way and I'll be back. Okay, I've got my beads here that I'm going to be using. I forgot to mention, you can also do tubular peyote. Like I said, you can do it with 2-hole beads. I couldn't find any examples of tubular peyote or peyote with 2-hole beads, although I've done a ton of it. I must have sold them all. You can also you can bezel stones using the peyote stitch, like the stones that don't have a hole in them, like chatons, rivolis, that kind of thing. There's just a whole lot you can do with peyote. I'm going to be using 8/0s today because I'm hoping that you can see them better than if I use the 11/0 delicas. These are just regular 8/0 seed beads. They're not delicas. I've got these here. They're Miyuki turquoise Ceylon. I think these are the same ones I used in the herringbone bracelet I did. These are Miyuki galvanized gold. Oop, camera's blurring. Come on now. Okay. And the 8/0. And then these are 11/0s in the same turquoise Ceylon as these. I'm going to do a little fringe down the side. You don't have to do that. That's completely optional. And I don't usually do that when I do use delicas, because when you use delicas, the sides are pretty straight. When you use regular seed beads, the sides can get a little wavy. So I'd put a little fringe down the side, but you don't have to do that. That's completely optional. I've got a toggle clasp and a couple of jump rings and a couple of wire guards. I've got my 8-pound fire line. I usually use 6-pound fire line when I'm doing it with the delicas, because this is such a tightly woven stitch, you don't really need as much structure as the 8-pound gives you. But since these are bigger beads, I'm going to use the 8-pound. I've got my scissors to cut my thread. I've got my chain nose pliers and my bent chain nose pliers to put my findings on, and I use the chain nose pliers to flatten the thread to thread my needle. I've already got my needle threaded because I didn't want y'all to have to wait while I did that, and I've done that already in several videos. So let me get these out of the way and get the ones I'm going to start with, and I'll be back. Okay, I forgot to mention I've got a couple of little tulip beading needles here. These are size 11. I've got a stop bead on the end of my thread. This is a bright orange 6/0 seed bead. I always want something completely different than what I'm using in my project, so I don't get it confused and sew it in. And I'm leaving about a 6-inch tail. If I was not going to be coming back down through the bracelet, I would leave like a 10 or 12-inch tail so that I would have that to sew my clasp on. But I'm going to be doing the fringe down the side, so I'm going to be coming back down, and I can do my clasp then. If you're not doing the fringe, you would probably want to leave like a 10 or 12-inch tail so you could sew your clasp in with it. I tried to find some beads that were not shiny because I thought that would be easier for y'all to see, but apparently I don't have a whole lot of not shiny beads because y'all know me, I'm all about the sparkle and shine. But I'm going to try to use these and hope y'all can see. I'm going to put my gold down the side and my turquoise in the middle. When you start peyote, you're picking up your first 2 stitches, your first 2 rows at once. So I'm going to be picking up 2 gold. I'm going to pick up 4 turquoise and 2 gold. I'm going to bring them down to my stop bead here. And I'm going to put the stop bead at the top, because I'm going to be working up. Now in peyote, what you're always doing is you're picking up a bead and skipping your next bead. You're picking up a bead and skipping a bead, and then picking up a bead and skipping a bead the whole time. So I'm going to hold my tail here tight and hold my work tight, and I'm going to pick up a gold bead. Now I'm going to skip this first gold bead, and I'm going to go into the second gold bead. And when I do that, it's going to sit the gold bead I'm picking up right next to the gold bead I skipped. So I'm going to pull it through there. And if you need to push your stop bead down to tighten things up, I do that a lot when I first start the first row. So that just sits that gold bead I just picked up right next to the gold bead that I skipped. Okay, now I'm going to skip this first turquoise bead and go into the second turquoise bead. So that's going to sit the turquoise bead, the bead I'm going to pick up right next to the one I'm skipping. So I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead, and I'm going to go skip the first turquoise bead and go into the second one. And pull it through. Pull it through and tighten. That's going to sit that turquoise bead right next to the one I skipped. Now I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead, skip this turquoise bead, and go into the second turquoise bead. Pull it through, tighten it good, and push your stop bead down if you need to tighten it. And that sits that turquoise bead right next to the one I skipped. Now I'm going to pick up the next one I'm going to do. I'm going to skip the gold bead and go into the top gold bead. So I'm going to pick up a gold bead because it's going to sit right next to that gold bead. So I'm going to go into that top gold bead, pull my bead through, and pull it up tight. And that sits that gold bead next to the gold bead I skipped. Now that's the hardest part. We're done with the hardest part. Now, I'm going to pick up a bead, and from now on, I'm going to be sewing into all the beads that are sticking out. The bead I pick up is going to sit next to the bead I'm skipping. I'm coming out the top of this gold bead. I'm going to skip it and go into this gold bead that's sticking out. So it's going to sit next to the gold bead I'm skipping. So I'm going to pick up a gold bead. I'm going to go in to that gold bead. Now, well, I don't know if y'all can see any of that. Let me take that out and do it again. Because I don't believe I was in frame. And now I've got my gold bead caught around my thread. Hold on. Okay, I got my thread untangled from around my bead, and I'm going to start this next row over again. So what I'm doing is I'm going to pick up a bead. I'm coming out the top of this gold bead. I'm going to pick up a bead. I'm going to skip that gold bead, and I'm going to go into this next gold bead. So I'm going to pick up a gold bead because it's going to sit. It's going to sit right next to the one I'm skipping. So I'm going to go in here, pull my thread through. So now I'm coming out this second gold bead, the bottom of the second gold bead. I'm going to skip that first turquoise bead and go in the turquoise bead that's sticking out. So I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead because it's going to sit right next to that first turquoise bead that I'm skipping. So I'm going to pull that through and tighten it. Now I'm coming out this turquoise bead. I'm going to skip this turquoise bead that's recessed, and I'm going to go into this turquoise bead that's sticking out. So I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead. I'm going to go into the turquoise bead that's sticking out. I'm going to tighten. Now I'm coming out the bottom of this turquoise bead. I'm going to skip the gold bead that's recessed, and I'm going to go in the gold bead that's sticking out. So I'm going to pick up a gold bead, and I'm going to go in my bottom gold bead. Just keep it pulled tight. You don't have to pull tight as much if you're using delicas, but these bigger 8/0 not delicas kind of tend to get loose, so you have to do that. So now I'm coming out the bottom of this bottom gold bead. I'm going to skip it. I'm going to pick up a bead, and I'm going to skip it, and I'm going to go into the gold bead that's sticking out. So I'm going to pick up a gold bead, and I'm going to pull it up there, and it sets it next to that one. Now I'm going to skip the turquoise bead that's recessed in there, and I'm going to go into the turquoise bead that's sticking out. So I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead. If it helps, the way you can think about it is you're always picking up the bead that you're going into. So I'm going into the turquoise bead, so I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead and go into the next turquoise bead. Now I'm going to skip this turquoise bead and go into this turquoise bead. So I'm going into a turquoise bead, so I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead. Okay. Now I'm going to skip the gold bead and go into the top gold bead. So I'm going into a gold bead, so I'm going to pick up a gold bead. And pull it through. Now if you want to flip this as you're working, you can. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to skip this bottom gold bead, and I'm going to go into this gold bead that's sticking out here. So I'm going into a gold bead. I'm going to pick up a gold bead. Okay, now I'm going to skip this turquoise bead that's recessed, and I'm going to go into the turquoise bead that's sticking out. So I'm going to go into a turquoise bead, so I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead. Okay, now I'm going to skip the turquoise bead that's recessed, and I'm going to go into the turquoise bead that's sticking out. So I'm going into a turquoise bead, so I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead. Okay, now I'm going to skip this. I'm coming out the top of this turquoise bead. I'm going to skip the gold bead and go into the gold bead that's sticking out. So I'm going to pick up a gold bead because I'm going into a gold bead. Okay. Now it's getting easier to hold on to. I'm going to flip it back and put my top bead stop bead at the top. Okay. You got more to hold on to now, and it's getting easier. So I'm going to skip. I'm coming out the bottom of this gold bead. I'm going to skip it and go into this gold bead that's sticking out. So I'm going into a gold bead. I'm going to pick up a gold bead. Now I'm coming out the top of this gold bead. I'm going to skip this turquoise bead that's recessed, and I'm going to go into the turquoise bead that's sticking out. So I'm going into a turquoise bead. I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead. And go into that sticking out one. Now I'm coming out the top of this turquoise bead. I'm going to skip the turquoise bead that's recessed, and I'm going to go into the turquoise bead that's sticking out. I'm going into a turquoise bead, so I'm going to pick up a turquoise bead. Okay. Now I'm coming out the top of this turquoise bead. I'm going to skip the gold bead that's recessed. I'm going to go into the gold bead that's sticking out. So I'm going into a gold bead. I'm going to pick up a gold bead. and that's all there is to it. You're just going to keep doing that until you get the length you want. So I'm going to keep doing that until I get to where I need to add thread, and then I'll come back and show you how I do that. Okay, I'm about to run out of thread, and this is not turning out nearly as wavy as I thought it was going to. So I normally probably wouldn't even bother doing the fringe down the side, but I said I was going to, so I am. But I'm about to run out of thread now, and I do this a little bit different in Peyote than I do the others. Because I have a very short attention span, I want my new thread that I'm going to sew in to be coming out this same bead. So because I have a very short attention span and am likely to forget, I'm just going to leave this in here for right now. I'm just going to park my bead there and leave it in my bead mat there and leave it in there for now. I've got a new piece of thread, very long, new piece of thread, and I've got a stop bead in it, just like I put in it before. Just a little bit of a tail. I'm not even going to leave enough to sew in, because I'm not going to have to sew this in, because I'm not going to be tying any half-inch knots. Peyote is such a tightly woven stitch that you don't really need to do half-inch knots. So I'm just going to go back down here in my project, away from where I want to come out. Just go through any bead, doesn't matter. Pull my new thread through. Till my stop bead stops it. Now I'm going to go up the next, I'm just to make sure I don't cross any beads. I'm going to go through the bead on the diagonal there and pull my thread through. This is a very long piece of thread, and I'm going to try to pull it through slowly and not get a knot. Okay, now it's probably hard to see where I'm coming out there, but I'm coming out this bead right here. That bead right there is the one my thread's coming out. I'm going to sew down the bead right next to it, because I want to keep my thread in the line there between the beads so that I don't cross over a bead and show thread. So I'm just going to sew down through it, and I'm going to sew down another one on the diagonal. It doesn't matter which bead you sew through, as long as you just keep in the lines there and don't cross over a bead so that your thread won't show. Now I'm going to go back over here to the left and sew back up that bead I sewed up before, and sew up the bead, come out the bead, the next bead up on the diagonal. Pull my thread through. Now I'm just going to sew back down that bead right next to it. And I'm going to stay in the same line there. And I'm going to sew up this bead. There's no rhyme or reason why I'm sewing up the beads I'm sewing up. Just whichever ones you want to. Just make sure you don't cross over any beads and show your thread. So, let's see. I'm going to stay in this line here. And I'm going to come down a couple of beads here. Just on the diagonal there. Now I'm going to go back over to the left and stay in that same line. Sew up a couple on the diagonal. Like that. Now I'm going to stay in that same line, go back over to the right, sew back down these two beads again that I already sewed through once on the diagonal. Go back over here to the left, sew back up these same two beads I just sewed up before on the diagonal. and that crosses your thread over itself in there. And when you do that enough times, it's not going to come out. So you don't need to do half-hitch knots. So much so that I'm just going to take this stop bead off and cut this off. I'm not even going to sew it in because it's not going to come out. Because I can pull on this hard right now and it's not going anywhere. It's not coming through there. I take my stop bead off here and pull as hard as I can, and it's not coming out because I crossed my thread over itself so many times in there. So now I'm just going to sew until I'm coming out this bead over here that I want to be coming out. And I just want to make sure that I stay in my line here and that I don't cross over any beads and show any thread. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off and get it out of my way because I don't need it anymore. Now I'm just going to keep sewing, making sure I stay in my line here and don't cross over any beads until I get to where I'm coming out the bead that I want to be coming out. Go down this bead. Well, I don't know if y'all saw that or not, but I'm just sewing through my beads until I come out the one I want to come out. I'm going to go down this bead on the diagonal from the bead I'm coming out. I'm going to go in this bead and diagonally go through the one I'm aiming for, the one I want to come out, the one my thread is coming out there, my old thread. So now I got my new thread coming out where I want it to come out. I'm going to take my old thread and I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to sew back through beads on the diagonal. I'm going to sew up these two on the diagonal. I'm going to sew back down these through so that I will get my thread crossed in there. I'm going to sew back up these through, these two. Now I'm going to go over here and go down these two. Go back up these two that I've already been through. Back down these two I just went through just to crossing my thread in there so it's not going to come loose. And that's enough. So now I'm going to cut that off. So now I'm ready to just continue on with my pattern. Finish my bracelet. It is a little wavy there, so I kind of pulled tight when I was doing all that and got it a little bit wavy, so it won't hurt to put my little fringe on there. So when I get to the end of my bracelet, okay, I've got my bracelet to the length that I want it to be, and I'm going to put some fringe down the side. Like I said, you don't have to do this. If you don't want to do this and you want to skip ahead to the part where I put the wire guardian on at the end and do the clasp, that's fine. But I'm just going to do this to decorate up the sides a little bit and hide that it's a little wavy. It's not very much wavy. I probably wouldn't have done it if I'd known it was going to be as straight as it is, but I'm going to do that with my 11-0s here. So let me zoom in here. I'll just pull my 11-0s out here. And I made my last, I put my last bead in there. And I'm going to pick up 3 of my 11-0s. And I'm coming out this bead. I'm just going to go in this bead. Just this one bead. That's just going to make a little picot there. A little picot there. Now I'm just going to go up this bead. And I'm going to pick up 3 more. My 11 O's. And I'm going to go down the next bead. Coming out this bead, going to go down this bead. Then I'm just going to go up the next bead. Pick up 3 more 11 O's. Go down the next bead. Coming out of this bead, going down this bead. Now I'm just going to go up the next bead in line. Pick up 3 11 O's. Go down the next bead in line. And I'm just going to do that all the way down this side of my bracelet. And when I get to the other end, I'll put the part on with the wire guardian and stuff. And I'll be back. Okay, I've got to the one end of my bracelet where I added on my little fringe there. And the way this works out with even count, on one side, you'll have down through here, these gold beads right on the edge, you'll have an odd number on one side and you'll have an even number on the other side. I'm obviously on the side with the odd number, which is why I'm coming out here without another bead to go into with my fringe. So I'm just gonna, oops, come on now, there we go. I'm just gonna take my 3 11 O's and I'm just gonna go from this bead into this bead. And do that like that. Now I'm going to put this side of my wire guardian on. I'm going to pick up 3 of my 11 O's, 1 of my 8 gold 8 O's. Bring them down, and then I'm going to pick up my wire guardian. These beads out of the way here. Pick up one side of my wire guardian. So that's what I've got. I got 3 coming out of this gold 8 I've got 3 of my little 11 O's and 8 gold 8 in my wire guardian. Now I'm going to go back down the other channel of my wire guardian. I'm going to hold my finger over it so that that thread will land in the channel of the wire guardian and not outside of the channel of the wire guardian. Now I'm going to go down just through the 8 Now I'm going to pick up 3 more of my 11 O's. And I'm going to go in this 8 Get it wrapped around my bracelet here. And that's going to put that on there like that. Now I want to be coming back out this gold 8 so I can reinforce this. So I'm just going to figure out where my thread's coming out here. It's coming out this turquoise 8 so I'm just going to sew down this turquoise 8 I want to keep in my line there so that I don't show any thread. So I'm going to go through this turquoise 8 and I got wrapped around there. Here we go. Now I'm just going to sew through these beads until I am coming back out this side of this gold 8 So I'm just going to do like I did when I was ending my thread and adding on new thread. I'm just going to sew on the diagonal through these beads. Let's sew through these two. This turquoise one and this gold one right here. And then I'm going to see that puts me in a position where I can go through that gold one without crossing any beads. I'm still in that same line. So I'm going to go back through this gold one. And now I'm going to go back up my 3 11-ohs. Back up my 8-oh. Back up my wire guardian. Back down my wire guardian. Hold on to it so that thread will land in the channel like it's supposed to. Now I'm going to go back through my 8-oh. Back through the other 3 11-ohs. And back through that turquoise 8-oh. Now I'm just going to do that again. I'm going to go down here so that I don't cross any beads, stay in my line there. I'm going to go through this turquoise 8-oh. Turn my work around a little bit here so I can see better what I'm doing. I'm going to go back through this turquoise 8-oh on the diagonal. This turquoise 8-oh on the diagonal. Because I want to be coming back out this gold one here so I can reinforce again. So now I'm going to go through this turquoise bead and this gold bead. It's getting kind of full of thread. It's kind of hard to do. I'm just going to go through the turquoise bead one for now. I'm going to go through the turquoise one. Now I'm going to go through this gold one on the diagonal. Now I'm going to follow my little line here so that I don't cross a bead. And I'm going to go back through this gold one. And then I'm just going to go, well, I'll just go ahead and do it. I'm going to go back up these 3 11-ohs. I can get my needle in there. Gets a little bit harder when they get full of thread, but it's not too bad. There we go. I'll go up these 3 11-ohs and my 8-oh. Go back up my wire guardian. Back down my wire guardian. I'm going to hold onto the wire guardian so that the thread will land in the channel like it's supposed to. I'm going to go back through my 8-oh. Back through the 3 11-ohs on this side. And that turquoise 8-oh. And that puts my wire guardian on there, and I went through it a total of 3 times, which is what I always want to do. Now I'm going to go through these 2 gold 8-ohs right here on the end, diagonally. And now I'm going to just do the same little fringe on this side that I did on this side. And then I'll be back. Okay, I put in my last little fringe here. So I've got my fringe down both sides. So now I'm going to put on this side of my wire guardian. I want to be coming out this turquoise bead to kind of match this down here that I did at the other side. So I'm coming out this gold bead. I'm just going to go through this gold bead on the diagonal and the turquoise bead on the diagonal. I'm going to pick up 3 of my 11-ohs, 1 of my gold 8-ohs, and my wire guardian. We go through one channel of my wire guardian, and I'm going to take my tweezer pliers and squish my wire guardian in a little bit. Now I'm going to come down the other channel of my wire guardian and the 8/0 and hold the wire guardian so that it'll land in the channel there like it needs to. I might have squished that one in too much. He's awfully squished compared to this other one down here. Let me see if I can open him up a little bit more. Okay, I think that'll be all right. Now I'm going to pick up 3 more of my 11/0s. And I'm coming out of this turquoise bead. I'm going to go in this gold bead over here. Right here. Try not to get twisted. There we go. Okay, now I want to go back, I want to sew back around till I'm coming out of this gold bead again. So I'm just going to sew, I'm going to go down through this one. I'm coming out this gold bead. I'm going to go down this gold bead right under it and the turquoise bead on the diagonal. Make sure not to get wrapped around the end of my project here, which I did. There we go. Now I'm coming out this turquoise bead right here. I'm going to sew into this one on the diagonal. Turn it around here, it might be easier to see. I'm coming out of this turquoise bead right here. I'm going to sew into this one and the one on the diagonal. Then I'm going to sew into, coming out this one right here. I'm going to sew into this one and the gold bead on the diagonal. Coming out this gold bead right here, I'm going to sew back into this gold bead. And then this turquoise 8/0. And now I'm going to just reinforce my ending here. I'm going to go back up through my 3 11/0s and my 8/0. Go back up one channel of my wire guardian, back down the other channel, and if you can get through it, I'm going to go through my 8/0 because I was lucky enough to be able to get through it. I'm going to hold on to my wire guardian so that I can guide that thread down into the channel like it's supposed to be. Now I'm going to go back down through these 11/0s and back through that gold 8/0. And now I'm going to sew back around until I'm coming out of this turquoise 8/0 here. So I'm just going to flip it over here. Coming out of this gold 8/0, I'm going to go into the gold 8/0 next to it. And the turquoise bead on, no, I'm just going to go through the gold 8/0 for right now. Sometimes you just have to take what you can get. I'm just going through the gold 8/0 for right now. Okay, now, I'm coming out this gold 8/0 right here. I'm going to sew through a couple of the turquoise 8/0s on the diagonal. Make sure not to get caught around the end of my project. Now I'm gonna sew through this 8/0, this 8/0, and this gold 8/0, this turquoise 8/0 and this gold 8/0. Now I'm going to come back down this gold 8/0 next to that one. I'm going to come back through this turquoise 8/0, which is where I'm wanting to come out. And now I'm going to just reinforce my clasp again. Clasp area. I'll go back through these 3 11/0s and the 8/0. Just be careful not to get caught around the project. I'm going to go back up my wire guardian. Back down this side of my wire guardian, and if you can get it back through the 8/0, hold my wire guardian to guide that thread down into the channel. And now I'm going to go back down through these 3 8/0s, and I'm going to go back into that gold 8/0, these 3 11/0s, and back into that gold 8/0. Pull my thread through. Now all I'm going to do is just sew back down through here, keeping, not crossing any beads, keeping in the lines so that I don't cross any beads, sewing on the diagonal. And I'm going to go back through here and make sure I crisscross my thread in between these beads, like I did when I ended off the thread, when I tied on new thread, when I added new thread and ended the thread I was using that I ran out of thread on. I'm just going to go back and forth between the beads, sewing through the same beads to crisscross my thread in those beads so that I don't have to tie any half-inch knots. And my thread won't come loose when I crisscross through them that many times. Just back and forth, crisscrossing your thread, sewing on the diagonal, not crossing any beads. Now that's enough. Now I'm going to cut it off. And now I'm going to get ready to put on my clasp. Got my clasp and my jump rings here. Just going to open my jump ring. Find the split in it. Just open it up. Put on one side of my bracelet and my clasp. Take my another jump ring. Open it up. Thread on the other side of my bracelet and my bar part of my clasp. close it up. Make sure it's closed really well. Now, see if it'll go together. And it will. And there's our little even count peyote bracelet. So let me get my mess cleaned up here. So there it is, all finished, all laid out. Let's bring it up here and let you see it a little closer. It's not hard. Even count peyote is not hard. Like I said, the hardest part is getting started, just because you don't really have much to hold on to when you're getting started. But once you get that part over with, it's really, really easy. It's rhythmic. It relaxes me. My husband kind of thinks I'm crazy, though. He says, how in the world does playing with little tiny beads smaller than grains of salt relax you? But he just doesn't understand. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate those of you who watch my videos and have subscribed to my channel and liked and commented on my videos. I have a website where I sell my jewelry. It's Teresa's Handmade Jewelry, and I'll put a link to it in the description box below in case you're interested, along with a link to my Facebook and Instagram and my email. If you haven't, I'd really love it if you'd subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified when I upload a new video. So until next time, I hope you all have a great day. Take care.